What's up you guys, welcome back to the channel.
Now last week, HP and I made a video talking about the 5 tools worth skimping out on. These are tools that it doesn't really matter if you get the cheaper alternative because regardless of the price point, they'll get the job done just fine. But today we're going to be talking about a very similar topic, but instead of talking about the 5 tools worth skimping out on, we're going to talk about the 5 tools that you should invest good money into in order to get the higher quality option.
So I buy a lot of tools through trial and error. This is whenever I buy a cheaper tool and it breaks or it's not good, it can't get the job done. So all of these tools that we're going to show today are ones that I found you have to get the more expensive one. Let's dive in. So the first one up on our list is going to be my electric impact gun. Now this is used for a variety of things, but more importantly, it's used for getting stuck on stuff unstuck. This is super important, and I can tell you this is one of those tools that I found through trial and error and was without a doubt the best option to get versus a cheaper one. The main thing I use my impact gun for is usually just getting lug nuts off of a wheel. Now every vehicle that I have, I like to, torque it to spec or at least get it with a nice impact, but sometimes if I buy a new car, the previous owner may have tightened it down with all the ooga doogas, which is mechanic terms for it's staying on forever. And it makes it super easy to get lug nuts off. Just like that. Now I know this seems kind of stupid because technically you could use manual tools like a regular 4-way to get lug nuts off, but it's not always about lug nuts, it's about motor mounts, and sometimes when you have 18 cars, this makes it a heck of a lot easier and takes all the guesswork out. Gotta work smarter, not harder. Now the impact gun that I have is a DeWalt brand. Now this sells for right about $250 whether you get it in-store or online, but it is way better than the $50 to $100 ones that I used to get from Harbor Freight. The Harbor Freight's really struggle to get big bolts off like lug nuts and even motor mounts and bigger bolts I need to get off, and truthfully I need something that gets the job done all the time, and this was the solution. So this is the impact that you can find in a local hardware store, and they're honestly not that bad price, $200, and this is the updated one, so it's the XR, a little bit fancier than mine, but with that you can use that battery for all the different types of tools that you would need to use whether you're working on cars or doing just any DIY repair job. And if you're looking for something a little bit cheaper, you still have options like Cobalt, which still actually come with a really good warranty as well. Now the next group of tools that I recommend you have to buy expensive is probably going to be Milwaukee ratchet sets. Now this is something that is kind of cheating because technically it's more than one tool, but there is something to be said about having a tool that uses the same exact battery as all your other tools. Like this Sawzall, for example. Not a lot of people would say that you need a Sawzall for cars until you get into that one specific sticky bolt that you just really can't get off, so you have to hacksaw it off. So my electric ratchet is probably one of my most favorite tools to use on almost every single car, but this is more of a manual use. As you saw, I kind of had to do it manually first, and then I use it to get the bolt off a lot quicker, versus me having to sit there for about 5 minutes cranking the same bolt to get it off. But then you also have this electric 1/4 inch impact driver, which is like my big impact, but it really is for if I can't get it off manually, I'll use this to get it off as well. It really is a versatile tool, and I highly recommend getting these because specifically you can change it off to a bunch of different applications for your vehicle. Now over the years I bought these individually. I'd highly recommend to get them in a set. It's way more cost effective to get a group of them, and you get several batteries to work with and even some chargers as well. But I can honestly tell you that after using the cheap version of this electric ratchet for a long time, getting a more expensive one has truly made me a believer that you really do need to work smarter and not harder. With a lot of cars, just like our other tool, you need to be able to work efficiently, and sitting and wasting 5 minutes to get off one single bolt versus being able to take it off in 5 seconds saves you loads of time and loads of effort. For $199 you can get a gun impact, kind of like the one that I have, a drill, and even a handy flashlight that you could use on car work. So definitely a lot of options out there as far as more expensive tools versus getting a generic cheap one that you might have to replace in, I don't know, a month or so. Another thing I highly recommend is to get a compressor. Now looking at this one, this is not a fancy one by any means, but it is a higher tier than maybe the cheaper options that are out there. This has saved me a lot of time and makes filling up tires and other things a breeze. This is something I actually got from Walmart. This is a 50-foot extension reel for my compressor, so it not only retracts, it makes it nice and easy to store. It really does make using this compressor a lot easier than trying to take this out to where I need it. Now with a compressor you can use a variety of pneumatic tools. Both like ratchets you can use the mechanical versions, but one thing that I really use my compressor for is going to be airing up tires, and this is really important and will save you a lot of time and a lot of money. Instead of going to like a 7-Eleven and paying that $1.50 or $2 to air up your tires, yanking their old busted cord around, and even just hoping that that machine is even working, I can go back home and plug mine in just like that. Now I do have this fancy digital gauge that makes this filling up tires very easy. I can see the gauge right there. No more having to use multiple tools to see the pressure that's in my tires. It just makes it a whole lot easier. My compressor is also good for just getting something that just needs to shoot air everywhere. Whether it's cleaning up my shop, cleaning out an engine bay, getting the source of a leak, this can definitely come in a lot of handy. I've used this to not only paint Aubrey's 4Runner, but also to paint Aubrey's father's Tundra in that Raptor liner as well. This is not the most expensive model, but it's definitely useful to have one with a huge tank that you can store a lot of air in and get all those jobs done. We've spent about $400 to $450 all together. That's included the compressor, this roll-up wheel, and all the individual components that I've used for tools. So as you can see, they do have a lot of options for smaller pancake style compressors, but to be truthful, they don't hold a lot of air, maybe for small tool use, but when you're filling up multiple tires worth of air, the last thing you want to do is have this thing going off like crazy, and they're pretty heavy and you have to tote that around a vehicle. Getting a nice stand-up one and investing in one with a reel is definitely the way to go. Now all of these are found at Lowe's. We got ours at Harbor Freight, but it is worth the investment to get a nice stand-up one versus a smaller pancake one. Now next up is something that really doesn't cost that much money as a whole, but it's way better than buying the cheaper options. It's my portable vacuum. Now for a long time, Aubrey and I were trying to find the perfect solution, something that we could take down to our lot and vacuum out our cars with, but unfortunately, these just don't do that good of a job regardless of what type of attachment that you use them for. This is actually a pretty decent brand of Dirt Devil, but it's really only good for picking up cookie crumbs at your house versus actual dirt and dust that's inside of a car. These really do come in handy, and I've even gone so far as to buy a variety of good attachments that really help for car use. Definitely worth the money versus going to a car wash and again, spending $2, $3, $4 to vacuum out each individual car when you need to. Now this base right here for just the shop vac is about $80, and you can get them either online or at your local hardware store. But you can also buy this in a complete set, much like the Milwaukee tools, for $150. That comes with the long hose, that comes with all the fancy attachments, and even an extra filter. Now the nice part about getting something like this is that you can get upgradable attachments if you don't want to shell out the $150. You can buy just the shop vacuum and piece them together as you see fit. Now Aubrey and I got our vacuum quite a long time ago, so naturally the prices have changed pretty significantly, but as you can see, the prices aren't that bad. $64 for a portable walk-around shop vac, which is exactly what you're looking for. Not something that you'd have to plug in, recharge, something that just is gonna work, and it's gonna work well. A lot of these horsepower ratings are all about 5 horsepower, which is enough for you to suck out any of the dirt and grime and even farts from seats. Now, last but definitely not least is gonna be something kind of a no-brainer, but also a brainer. Your phone.
Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Phones are not tools, but in the context of running a Turo fleet, your phone is gonna be one of the best tools that you have at your disposal, and shelling out for the better one is a well worthwhile investment. Now, whenever I got my iPhone 11 Max Pro, I ended up getting the biggest version with the largest amount of storage, and it ended up coming out to about $1,400. And I remember at the time at the Apple store, the guy who was selling me the phone told me that he didn't think that I needed that much storage and that he thought it was overkill, and thus I was wasting money. But to be honest, there isn't a day that goes by where I regret spending the money on this phone.
And they really do have a variety of use. When it comes to taking pictures of cars, this has a great camera, it captures everything I need it to capture, and it does it efficiently and quick. We're also talking battery life, and even when I'm working on cars, it really comes in clutch when I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing if I get stuck.
Phone is the best investment that you can make for your Turo fleet. But with that being said, you guys, like we mentioned in our previous video, we understand how daunting it can be whenever you're trying to figure out which tools you should and should not invest in. But the tools that we discussed in this video are really good places to start whenever you're looking to spend a bit more money.
And as always, guys, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and we'll see you in the next episode.